and technology to perform their duties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lux from Okaloosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Paul Lux, and it is my privilege to serve the voters of Okaloosa County as their supervisor of elections. I am not only an Army veteran myself, but I was also a reservist as well as a military family member. I'm honored by your invitation to share my thoughts regarding issues for our voting military members. Issues surrounding voters covered under the Uniformed and Overseas Citizen Absentee Voting Act, more commonly known to election officials as UOCAVA voters, are important to me and my staff because we live in a unique area. Okaloosa County is a rectangle that has Alabama as its northern border, the Gulf of Mexico as its southern border, and is divided by a 20-mile wide swath of federal property. In addition to Eglin Air Force Base and Hurlburt and Duke Fields, together comprising the largest Air Force base in the world, we also share our community with the U.S. Army 7th Special Forces Group, the 6th Army Ranger Training Battalion, the U.S. Navy Explosive Ordnance Disposal School, and Coast Guard Station Destin. Of our 124,000 registered voters, nearly 20% are UOCAVA voters representing all 5 service branches. On a national level, we largely conduct absentee balloting for our military today just as we did during the Civil War. A voter mails me a request for an absentee ballot and hopes I get it. I mail that voter a ballot and hope he gets it, and he puts that ballot back in the mail and hopes I get it in time for it to be counted. In his remarks last week, Dr. Pursley distilled the problems encountered by UOCAVA voters down to 3 points: ballots that are never received, ballots that are not correctly or timely cast, and ballots that are not counted. A lot of effort has been expended over the years to fix the first of these problems, the MOVE Act not least among them, and ease grants being the most recent. I lead the other consortium. Bill said there were 2 in Florida. Ours is bigger. No. I've been directly involved in each one of these efforts. I have seen them at work, I have seen the direct results, and I have also seen their shortcomings too. I would submit to you that with probably few exceptions, any UOCAVA voter who wanted a ballot got a ballot in 2012. Now, you can't legislate UOCAVA voters correctly casting their ballots. They either follow the instructions provided or they don't. Many of the reasons for which ballots are not counted can be attributed directly to the voter. Ballots should be signed by the voter, not a spouse, not even a spouse with power of attorney. Ballots, at least in Florida, cannot be returned by fax if the voter is not overseas. In order to ensure votes are counted as cast, ballots should be marked correctly. Fill in the oval. There's only one multisyllabic word there, and that's oval. Ballots being timely cast usually have a direct correlation to requests being timely filed and ballots being delivered as soon as possible. Federal law requires all jurisdictions to mail or email ballots to all UOCAVA voters with a request on file not later than 45 days before any federal election. My office routinely exceeds that deadline by 5 days or more, mailing and emailing ballots out 50 or more days prior. But if we don't have a request on file, that gives us less time to get a ballot to that voter. That means that voter has less time to return the ballot back to their election officials. This is more problematic for those who are serving in harm's way. Voters in forward deployed areas receive mail less frequently and have problems getting mail out when the decision is, do we send casualties or supplies in the helicopter versus mail? Guess who wins? There are a myriad of problems that can cause a ballot not to be counted. I would like to highlight some of the most prevalent. Many voters send in federal write-in absentee ballots, or FWABs in our vernacular, without first having a request on file. These ballots cannot be counted in many jurisdictions. Ballots received after Election Day for stateside voters and after the 10-day period for overseas voters cannot be counted in many jurisdictions. Yes, we really do verify signatures on absentee ballot certificates before those ballots are counted. Looking forward from here, I would offer the following advice. First, continue to expand opportunities to make ballots available electronically. It is really hard to beat how fast electronic delivery can put a ballot in a voter's hands. Eliminating the first half of the problem is winning half the battle. Second, expand efforts to educate UOCAVA voters on the state-specific requirements and help them understand the most common reasons their ballots are rejected. The Federal Voting Assistance Program has been working hard toward this goal, but laws can change annually, as you've heard from some of the other panelists. What remains unchanged is the fact that uniformed service members cannot use the FPCA to register in the state in which they reside. They have to use that individual state's form. Some states, Florida included, do not accept FWABs as a registration document. It is merely used as a ballot here. Voting assistance officers, the VAOs, who serve at virtually every level of every military organization, need to be able to impart these important differences to those seeking their assistance. Emphasize that absentee ballot requests should be submitted as early as possible. Ensure that any troops being deployed, especially during presidential election years, are specifically afforded the opportunity to register and request an absentee ballot as part of their deployment processing. Third, encourage more states to adopt laws that are UOCAVA friendly. Florida in recent years has expanded the use of FWABs, extended late registration for those returning from combat, and allowed for the complete ballot, not just federal races, to be counted for the 10-day overseas absentee ballots. I commend my legislative delegation from Okaloosa County for spearheading efforts to make many of these changes. I would like to see all 50 states make similar considerations for UOCAVA voters. Finally, and no surprise to those who know my passion for aiding our hardest to reach voters, encourage and conduct more projects that facilitate the electronic return of absentee ballots from UOCAVA voters. Florida law currently allows overseas voters to return voted ballots via fax, so we can email those voters a ballot that can be printed out, voted, and faxed back. However, one of the recurring problems we encounter, especially in big elections, is how few voters today have access to a fax machine. There is no FedEx in the green zone in Baghdad. The guy in the foxhole in Afghanistan does not have a printer or a fax machine. He does have internet access, however. I know this because I get email from him. We have to find a way to leverage web-based technologies to create a system that can help these voters. The service of those defending our freedoms should not be rewarded by being disenfranchised. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating pure internet voting, and I'm certainly not advocating allowing electronic return without any form of security measure. But opponents of electronic ballot return would prefer to not even have this conversation. The scope of the VOI project in 2000 was too limited to provide data worth studying. The SERV project in 2004 was canceled due to a lack of political will in Washington, D.C. Tired of waiting for a government solution, Okaloosa County created the Okaloosa Distance Balloting Pilot Project, a kiosk-based system that was a good proof of concept. EASE grants, research grants from 2011, and also again EASE 2 this year, help further electronic ballot delivery, but specifically prohibit using those funds to develop any system that would return a marked ballot electronically. When I recently spoke at a symposium hosted by NIST and the EAC back in February, I asked for help from the very people who opposed these ideas. UOCAVA voters need this. UOCAVA voters want this. We will get there with or without the help of our detractors, but we would prefer to do this with their help and expertise. And I would like to thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.